Welcome back to the Motorhome Matt Podcast. I'm Keith Gooden.
And I'm Motorhome Matt.
He's the expert. I ask the silly questions on your behalf. Today, where can you empty your motorhome toilet? It's a bone of contention, has been for a while. And Matt, you're back to answer some questions. And he's been asking some difficult questions of some of the powers that be. So stay tuned for that one. It's all brought to you with thatleisureshop.com. Let's delve into the news. We've won a trophy, but Matt Sims has lost that trophy. So we were going to show it to you on our YouTube channel, but it's nowhere to be found.
I don't know where it is. I'm sorry. We did win an award. Yeah. We won Best Leisure Industry Podcast.
Of course we did. Of course we did.
Yeah, I think 3 people entered.
Yeah.
But yeah, the trophy, I'm sure it did arrive. I found a box and it's empty. So I don't know what I've done with it. I don't know where it is.
When it turns up, you'll be the first to see it. Thanks very much for that, Matt. It would have been nice to see it myself, but no, by the by. Your product of the week this week from thatleisureshop.com.
Well, this one's very much on theme with this topic of the podcast this week. It's Solbio. If you've not heard of Solbio, it's a plant-based toilet chemical, which is so safe to use, you can actually drink it. In fact, I'm on YouTube doing just that. I don't recommend it. It tastes like essential oil. In fact, it tastes horrible. Insert a bleep there. But it's safe enough to drink.
It must be said that you drank the product from the bottle and not from the cassette.
I did. Yeah, there's a technique to using it, though, for the first time you use it. This is really important. If you're embarking on using Solbio for the first time, really important, you totally empty your toilet cassette, rinse it round, and then put a dose of Solbio in it and tip it upside down, round and round, basically coat the entire cassette internals in Solbio, and then prep it with another dose ready to use. Really important you don't ever then go back to using the traditional blue or green chemical that we're used to using, because you will affect the effectiveness of the Solbio. So it's plant-based and it's septic tank friendly, it's main sewer friendly, and it's a fantastic product. It's on offer in our shop. It's typically $24.99 retail. You can buy a bottle of it or a bag of it. It looks like a wine bag, actually. It's got a tap. So it even looks friendly to drink, but honestly, don't do it, although it's safe to. And it's really, really effective. Loads and loads of YouTubers and influencers have been using it. They've been giving it to use, and they are loving it. We sell loads of it in the shop. I recommend it to you.
And you're no longer stocking products that contain formaldehyde. Those poor little ants, millions of them make this chemical, and you are saying, no.
Is that true? Ants make formaldehyde?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yes, absolutely.
There's a lot of ants go into some of our toilet chemical we sell then.
They do indeed.
Well,
but you're not stocking it anymore.
No, I mean, maybe it's contentious, but formaldehyde is not good for us humans, and it's certainly not good for plant life or for biological life, fish and so on. So we've made a decision that we're no longer going to stock products. There's some big brand names that have formaldehyde in them. It is said that it can be carcinogenic as a chemical, and so we've made a decision not to stock it.
It's the Motorhome Matt Podcast with me, Keith Gooden.
And me, Motorhome Matt.
Brought to you with thatleisureshop.com. Let's get into the main bit of the whole podcast. This week, where can you empty your motorhome toilet? And we'll be hearing from some of the water companies, and boy, they've been in the news themselves in recent months. So let's delve into it first of all. Who have you been talking to then, Matt?
Well, a little while ago, I suggested that you could empty your toilet cassette down a toilet. So maybe not in the motorway services, dragging a toilet cassette through there, dripping on the floor is gonna get you told off. But certainly going home and emptying it, I know thousands of us that do this after a trip. We empty the cassette down the toilet. I got absolutely thrown under the bus by many of our listeners that got in touch and said, you absolutely shouldn't do that. You shouldn't be emptying your toilet cassette down the toilet. So I thought, well, where should I be emptying it then? On a septic tank on a campsite, I get that, but then you have to be using a septic tank friendly chemical. So traditionally they're green in colour. So I thought, right, this has been my advice. I'm going to go and get advice from someone above my pay grade. You know what? The other week on Facebook, in fact, last week on Facebook, there was a picture. Somebody had apparently emptied their toilet cassette on a flower bed in Dorset. A van had been parked there overnight. They got up, emptied the cassette. There was white paper, toilet paper strewn all over the flowers, blue liquid all over the floor and stuff, and drove off. That's just awful.
That is disgusting, and it must be kept in mind that other diseases and bacteria can pass from human to human through human waste, even if it's been chucked on the ground. It's not like manure or horse or cow manures at all. They're different species altogether.
Well, they eat grass.
Yeah, you cannot do that with your waste. It's not only antisocial, it can cause some serious illness.
It's disgusting.
It is.
So my point is, we need to manage where we dispose of it. And I said, Dan, if you can't empty it down a campsite disposal point, empty it down your toilet. After all, if it's not going to a septic tank, it's going in the main sewer. And people were saying, this is bad. So I thought, right, I called up with Ian from Qualkem. Qualkem are a manufacturer, long-established manufacturer of toilet chemicals. So I asked Ian, can I empty the contents of my toilet cassette into my main sewer connected toilet at home?
My take is it depends on what chemical you've got in there, but generally if you've used the toilet and it's full, it should be relatively safe to empty it down your toilet. Most campsites, some will have dedicated disposal facilities, but most go into the main sewer. So it's not really any different. I just avoid any products that are formaldehyde based, really. So most of the products that you would class as green, eco, septic, tank safe, forget the colour of the chemical. It's what it says on the back and what it does. Then
right, so hang on, whoa, stop there. So you said the F word.
I did.
Right? Formaldehyde.
Formaldehyde.
Now, formaldehyde is it proven? Certainly, there's a strong chance that it's carcinogenic.
Yes, it's not. There is still no hard and fast proof. But there's been lots of tests on it, and basically I would avoid it. And again, it's as a raw chemical that it's the carcinogenic bit. But the biggest thing with formaldehyde is it really does smell. So therefore, you've got to put a lot of perfume in it to hide the smell. Reminds me back in the day when I was a kid, camping. And that's all there was, and it was unpleasant to go to the loo. You just didn't want to do it, and that's formaldehyde. And that formaldehyde's old chemistry. It's the old hat. Yeah. Most companies, I would say that most reputable companies probably have changed now.
And they're not using it anymore, are they?
They're not using it. There's 2 or 3 people, a couple of big players still using it.
And we're not going to name them, but formaldehyde is still used in toilet chemical, isn't it?
Yeah, quite a lot. We moved away from it in the 90s, all the way through, all the commercial stuff and all the sort of retail caravan stuff. We've moved away from it, and everything that we do now is septic tank safe. So it's not about the colour. This is a great myth as well, is this colour thing.
Go on, blitz it.
All right, unblitz it. It's not about the colour. It's this blue and green is marketing. It's the simplest thing. Yes, is marketing.
But blue, you can pour down a sewer. You can only use green if you're on a campsite with a septic tank.
Yes, true. If you've got a septic tank, you should use a green product, but it doesn't have to be green in colour. It needs to be green in nature.
Right, okay. So, I'm talking about green in colour. But you're saying, no, you could use a blue toilet chemical, yes, provided it has what characteristics?
It needs to have, for example, our product, we will put a logo on the back. We have a logo on the back of ours that says it is septic tank safe. Most of the products would usually use a biocide called bronopol, which is a more environmentally friendly product.
Okay.
So the old F word, well, the more environmentally version of that is usually a bronopol or a derivative of. Might not always say that, unfortunately, on the bottle. They might use a sort of chemical terminology for it. But I would look for a product that's got says it's septic tank safe. And it doesn't matter whether it's blue or green. It wants to say septic tank safe.
But surely, if you're pouring blue toilet chemical down into a campsite waste point, into a septic tank, and it says, this is a septic tank and it's blue, aren't you going to get challenged?
Possibly. That's why we put a logo on ours to say, look, guys, this is safe to go down here.
So make sure you got the bottle to hand.
Make sure you've got the bottle to hand. The other thing with bronopol-based products is that it will go green as you use it. So as it's going down, it's green. But
so, Ian, I have to ask the question: why don't we just have green chemical?
Blue hides a lot of things, I think, is the best one. We're all used to it. If you go to anybody and you talk to them, it's a strange thing. Our product, for example, if you've got a caravan, you can use in the flush and the waste, one bottle. How many people come to me and say, no, pink goes in the top and blue goes in the bottom, because that's how they've been educated, that's how they know. So I suppose at some point, yes, your answer is yes, probably we will go to maybe a green dye, or educate everybody that it's what's in the chemical, not what colour it is.
So another question we get asked a lot is, how do you know if a campsite has a septic tank or not?
I think you'll find if it's in the middle of nowhere, there's every chance that it probably will have a septic tank. I think that's the simplest one. Ask.
Yeah,
I think that's the best one to do, is go into the reception, or go to the person if it's a little CL or a farm site and say, do you have a septic tank? Is it safe to put septic tank safe chemicals in?
Brilliant.
And the best one, I would say, don't buy formaldehyde based products. It has to say.
We're blitzing some myths. So formaldehyde does still exist in some toilet chemical?
Yes.
And avoid it?
Yes.
For health grains?
For everything, it's just unpleasant.
It's horrible.
It's old hat. It's old history. We've moved on. This is no longer the 40s. This is we're in the 2000s now, and in 2023 next year. Yeah. So don't use stuff from 100 years ago.
And so for folk who are new to it, and there's a huge percentage of our industry at this show, there's a large percentage of the footfall which have never been to a Motorhome Caravan show before. For them, this is all a mystery. This is kind of, it's blue, it's green, it's pink, and we're always trying to help people understand it. What you're saying is, look at the label, and if it's septic tank friendly, ignore the colour. Yeah. And actually, there's a reason though we're used to blue, isn't there? Portaloos.
Portaloo. We invented back in the 70s. We were one of the first to put blue and blue dye, and basically, as the guys used the loo on site, it turned green, and that was to sort of notify it's ready to empty. And it sort of stuck with there, and it's gone through the caravan world exactly the same. Blue hides a lot of things, and there's a lot. It's toilets, and we want to hide it. We don't actually want to see what we've done in there. Really, we do. It's it's one of these things. It's
So is it another myth then? Green is not as effective as a blue chemical.
Yes, it is a myth, completely and utterly a myth. Green. A lot of green products, for example, from our experience, our traditional cassette toilet, which is blue, has bronopol in it. A lot of our competitors who have a green product, and whether it's called green, eco, organic, whatever you want to call it, uses the same biocide.
Different
dye, or no dye at all. That's what we've done with our eco product. We put no dye in it at all. So because it's, again, certain places don't like dye, so if you've got a filter system toilets, like one of these filter bed toilet systems, for you don't want dye in it because it can affect the plants. So
what about then, Ian? When we go to France, what chemicals should we be? We should be taking green, right?
We should be taking environmentally friendly.
So environmentally
septic tank safe.
Not green in colour, but green eco-friendly.
Not green in colour, but green in nature.
And on a campsite, I have been challenged using blue chemical, because we forgot.
Yeah.
We're on a campsite in France, and the warden came over and said, no, like this, in there, stop, my French is rubbish. And we were told we couldn't use the blue chemical.
Yeah.
Now, it had to be green. And they were not going to be moved on it wasn't septic tank safe. Yeah. I know that, but they didn't know that. Yeah. It could have been septic tank.
And that's the thing, is to show that there's an icon, and we've got an icon on the back of our bottles that say septic tank safe. And if you are still unconcerned that, but buy a true eco product, and there is very few out there. To be honest, there's a true eco product. Most of them have a biocide in, but it's an environmentally friendly biocide. So,
right. One more myth then.
Okay.
I'm going to put a dishwasher tab in my toilet cassette. That does the same job, doesn't it? It's loads cheaper.
Yeah. A, it isn't any cheaper. B, why would you spend between 50 and 250 grand on a motorhome and then put something that's not designed to do it in your toilet? But really a dishwasher tablet is probably bleach based. It's not. It's designed for cleaning dishes, strangely enough. That's why it's a dishwasher tablet, not for treating human waste. So, pardon the pun, you're wasting your money, really. So it's not doing anything. It's just a bit of perfume and a bit of detergent. It's not actually doing anything. So you'd be better off buying a quality product that does the job.
And then I'm going to ask you, and I haven't told you I'm going to ask you this, what about SOG toilets then?
SOG toilets are great. They're a great concept, great idea. They don't use any chemicals. What they do is they send the smell outside to your neighbour. So it's a fan vacuum system that blows it out into the atmosphere.
That's very true. That is exactly what it is.
It smells. You don't have the smell, but your neighbour does. So, but they are great. I'm not going to criticise. It's a great concept of being very. Strangely enough, we get regularly asked by SOG owners, "Do you do anything that perfumes it?"
Right. Yeah.
So obviously it doesn't completely get rid of the smell.
Tell them to use a dishwasher tab that's bleach free.
Yeah, or just buy some chemical.
Yeah, well,
why
have a SOG toilet?
Just buy a bit. Yeah, just buy a bit of chemical.
Brilliant.
Don't put as much in. Just put small amounts in. And that's why we're on myths. That's another really good myth. Why we're on it. Sadly, Matt, I have to tell you, size doesn't matter.
Really?
Yeah. Size doesn't matter.
You're a lot taller than me.
Yeah, there's amazing how many people I see wandering around a show with huge, big 5 litres of toilet fluid, and they get very little out of it because it's all water. So, buy a concentrate rather than buying water is what I would say.
Well, I didn't know that.
Yeah, there you go. See, there's another myth for you.
A loo tube is the way forward then.
Loo tube or a smaller compact bottle that buys concentrates. So don't. One I can think of straight away was there was a 5 litre at the show last February, which was £10, and you got you had to put 250 ml of fluid into your toilet. So doing a master workout, that's not many doses. So that's what's that? That's 10 doses, sort of out of a bottle.
Yeah.
At £10, where I was selling stuff that did 50 doses if you had a motorhome for £10. Yeah. Because you're buying concentrate, so it's don't buy water.
No, and you make sure you use the right amount, isn't it? If it's concentrated,
that's the other one. We're blokes. We don't read instructions, so we just go, well, that'll do. Have a bit of that. That'll do. And again, it depends on what you could be underdosing it or overdosing it. So you could be putting £5 notes down the loo, or not enough.
Read the label.
Read. Yeah, guys.
You heard that, blokes.
Yeah, blokes out there, read the instructions.
Well, they've changed the rules of Cluedo since I was last playing. When I looked with Colonel Mustard and Miss Scarlet, now it's Myth Blue and Myth Green. Boom, boom.
Very good. Very good. Well, we did also ask Thetford to comment, who, of course, are another big toilet chemical manufacturer, but we unfortunately didn't get any response from them. We could only really get in touch with them in their European office, but no reply. And they do make a now concentrated version of toilet chemical, which I have used and I found very effective. So, Thetford, if you are listening to this, then we would love a comment from you on this topic.
Water companies have been very much in the news over the past few months about what they're doing with our waste. And one of the things that you did ask, Ian, was the amount of chemical we use and if it could damage a sewage treatment plant.
Well, we come to this in a minute, yeah. And I said to him very specifically, is the volume of chemical in my toilet cassette going to upset the effectiveness of the main sewage treatment works? The amount of chemical in the toilet chemical is not going to ruin the sewage plant, is it?
No, it's not. If everybody who had a motorhome or a caravan at that one single point
on 3
go for it, emptied their loo at that one point, and we were all using formaldehyde,
oh dear,
the big F word, then potentially it could do some harm. That said, we've done it they have done that in the past for years, and we survived. But we're more environmentally conscious now, and generally your biocide will get used up treating that 20 litres of waste.
But the key thing is don't empty it anywhere other than a main sewer.
No. There's a grid there, because that'll go into a rainwater system, which is completely different than it doesn't go into sewage treatment. You know, we supply the portable toilet industry with the Portaloos. They take that. There's 200 litres of waste in there. They take that to the sewerage plant, and that has the same chemical in it. So there really is no real issue for that. It will get treated and dealt with downline at the sewerage plant. But formaldehyde will kill everything. Yeah, so we stay away from
Ian,
that.
it's great to have your expertise on this and your guidance. I really appreciate it.
It's fine. Anytime.
Thank you for taking the time,
Perhaps
mate.
we do a full podcast on this then, at some point, on all the myths. Get people to write in with myths on toilets.
Thank you, Ian. Really appreciate your input. And there you have it. So I can pour my toilet cassette down the toilet according to the chemical manufacturer. We got in touch with a number of wastewater companies and they gave us a statement.
Wessex Water says chemicals used in many mobile toilet cassettes can be detrimental to the biological treatment at some water recycling centres, so we would not recommend discharging these into domestic drains. If the toilet cassette has no additional chemicals, it will be the same as normal domestic waste and can be disposed of at home. Most motorhome and caravan parks have suitable locations to dispose of toilet waste, and these are designated as appropriate.
So we got their reply and I thought, well, okay, great. So they're saying if there's no chemical in it, I can pour it down the toilet. Basically, that's just raw sewage like I would normally generate, no problem. But the point is my cassette is going to have a chemical in it. And if it's not something like Solbio, it's going to be a chemical-based product. And I wanted to know, can I pour that down the toilet? So I actually went back to Wessex Water and they just reiterated what they've already said. It actually resulted in a phone call. I rang them and said, what you're saying is very helpful. I understand if we pour it down a campsite disposal point, that's probably going to go into a septic tank. So we need to use what we traditionally call green chemical. But what I'm asking very specifically is, can I pour my toilet cassette down the toilet when it's got blue chemical in it? And they said, no, we would advise against that. As I said, chemicals can be detrimental to the biological treatment at some water recycling centres, formerly sewage treatment works. I went back to them again and said, look, thank you for your reply. Again, very helpful, but you're advising against it. So where do I pour it? If I'm not on a campsite with a dedicated waste disposal point, what do I do with it? I'm not going to join that person on Facebook, endorse it and pour it in the flower bed. What do I do with it? They would not move. It resulted in a second phone call and an argument where they just stood by this frankly half-hearted advice.
Viola forwarded us to Scottish Water, who cover the whole of Scotland. They said, please do not empty wastewater cassettes down the toilet, particularly in rural areas. Please use designated camper van waste disposal points wherever possible. The chemicals can impact on the treatment processes of smaller wastewater treatment works, and the increase in volume can overload the sewer system in rural networks.
They went on to say, if a camper van waste disposal point is not available, there is unlikely to be a problem with taking cassettes home and disposing them via toilets, especially in larger urban communities. Larger networks mean the wastewater will be diluted considerably before reaching the wastewater works. If not at home, permission should always be obtained from the owner-operator of the toilets first.
So that's some of the response we've got from the water companies. We know that a lot of sewage doesn't make it to a treatment plant and does go into rivers, because that has been widely covered in the national press over the last year or so. So I noticed actually in the Wessex Water statement that they are saying they've changed the names of treatment works to, what were they, water recycling centres, not sewage treatment works anymore. Well, we know that raw sewage is being pumped into the sea and into our inland waterways. So I'm not surprised that they're saying don't put chemicals down it, because it's ending up in the environment.
It's ending up in the waterways. We see it here locally, don't we, in the coast, in the estuary here, just off Western Supermare. What do we do then? What do we do with our toilet cassette waste. If you're using a product that's got formaldehyde in it, as Ian says, just don't do it. That's what's going to kill fish, upset the biological balance, and is damaging to humans, as much so probably as raw sewage is itself. But what do we do with our toilet cassettes? The water companies just aren't really being very helpful here. And I've given advice in the past, it's okay to pour it down the toilet. To be fair to Scottish Water, they did say, in an urban area, that's okay. In a rural area, no. And I'm guessing because those toilets probably end up in a septic tank where you should be using green chemical. So I guess the responsibility comes to us, doesn't it? As the user and creator of the waste, we need to make a conscious decision about the chemical we're buying and where we're disposing it. If you know you're going to be disposing of it into a rural sewer system, then you definitely need to be using a green type product. If you're in a big urban built up area, they say then pouring a blue chemical down the main sewer probably will be okay and will have limited impact. But I have to say I've been very disappointed by the willingness of the water companies to give us advice that actually clarifies the position.
Thetford was approached but did not reply to us or we're still waiting for their response. We've got something more from Ian as well, something to do with cola, I understand.
Don't put Coca-Cola down your grey water tank.
Go on, tell me more.
Yeah, well, it's sugar. So yes, it will. If you put a 2p in a Coca-Cola, it'll clean it, won't it? So yeah, it'll clean your grey water tank, but then it'll leave glucose inside. It's a nice black environment, food for bacteria. It'll just smell again. So again, use the proper stuff. Don't use Coca-Cola.
Hey, Ian, you are the myth buster. I love it. I've tried Coca-Cola down my wastewater tank.
Yeah, did it clean it?
It's rubbish.
Yeah, it is rubbish, yeah.
I must admit, a load of gloop came out.
Yeah, it'll clean it. It will clean it, but it will just leave glucose in there, and then it will attract insects. It will just, it's just, don't do it.
Daft idea, you reckon?
Just don't do it. Yeah.
Right, I've been told. I'm not doing that again.
Don't do it, Matt. Just don't do it.
It must be said, however, that a lot of these fixes have come from social media over the years. People, you have to understand, just put these things up to get lots of little hits and say, I've got 5 million people who believe me. And a lot of these things don't work. But as Ian says there, it does work. But I must say in defence of Coca-Cola and their product, it is designed as a drink. It is not designed as a toilet cleaner.
Yeah, that's very true. I won't be doing that again. I was told off.
And so you should be. And what about the diet versions? Do they work at all, I wonder?
I've no idea. I'm not going to be trying it.
So try to always use a dedicated disposal point. Is that what you're saying then, Matt?
Well, that seems to be the advice, and that's great when you're on a campsite where there is a toilet cassette emptying point. Often they have a brand name. They're often called Elsan emptying points. Elsan is just a toilet chemical manufacturer, like Hoover or a vacuum manufacturer. But whatever chemical you're using, I think you need to make an informed decision about it. My point is this: if you empty your toilet cassette into a toilet on a campsite or even a dedicated waste disposal point, there is a chance it's just connected to the main sewer. If you know it's going into a septic tank, fine. Use the green version of the chemical. Really important. But if you have been told, no, we don't have a septic tank, we're on main sewerage, there's your toilet waste disposal point, that is just going into the main sewer. And this is the point I was trying to make to the water companies. You're saying use a dedicated waste disposal point. Often they just end up in the main sewer. What's the difference between emptying it into a toilet? Do you see my point?
See your point exactly, but developments in the water industry over the last few years has shown to us that emptying it into the main sewer doesn't mean it's going to a treatment works, as we've always presumed in the past, and could be flushed into the river just down the way from you or even into the sea. So I suppose, and acting again as a devil's advocate here on the podcast, motorhomers and caravanners should be taking more responsibility for what comes out of their bottoms and what they mix it with in the toilet cassette.
Well, I think we do take responsibility for what comes out of our bottoms by virtue of taking responsibility for what we put in our mouths. The issue here is what we mix the content of our bottoms with chemical-wise and then where we put it. I think I've taken from this is just use a plant-based, green-based product. Don't use a blue one. I think the days of blue chemical are probably numbered, and we are moving more and more toward plant-based versions. which is why I was so keen to talk to Thetford, because they do a green version of their chemical, and they still do a blue. In fact, they've just launched a eucalyptus smell version of their toilet chemical, their concentrate, which we sell loads of. But me in the shop, if I'm working at the till, I will say to people, I would consider using a green version of this, or Solbio, which is a plant-based.
And the days of flush and forget behind us? Forgive the pun.
Well, if you're using green chemical, yeah, they could be. But if you're using blue chemical, where's it going to go? And that's the problem, isn't it? Once you've flushed, you don't know where it's going. That's down to the water board to determine, the wastewater company to determine.
Well, if you've got a view on this, we really would like to hear from you. How do people get in touch then, Matt?
Yeah, we would love your comment on this and your view. You can do so at motorhomematt.co.uk/Ask Matt. If you've got a story to tell or an experience you want to share with us, we'd love to hear it, particularly around toilet cassettes, emptying your waste, or in fact anything to do with the wonderful world of motorhomes. Go and record your comment there, hit the orange button and tell us where you are in the country. If you want to, you can submit your question via the form on the webpage.
Well, we really would love to hear your voice and where you're from, obviously. Share this podcast with a friend. Please do. It helps us get the word around. And what happens if people are listening on Apple and Spotify?
Then you can leave us a review there. If you would leave us a 5-star review, we would absolutely love it. It helps populate the podcast into new listeners' feeds, and it does something with an algorithm.